Hi, since currently we can't have demos in the store, can't set up a table and have people come in while the game room remains closed, we thought the next best thing would be bringing the demos to you at home. Today I'm going to be talking about a game called Unmatched, specifically Unmatched Cobble and Fog. Now, the Unmatched system does have a few different releases. The first one was Battle of Legends, which was King Arthur, Alice in Wonderland, Medusa, and Sinbad. Then they came out with Robin Hood versus Bigfoot, which I guess is their forest theme. There's been a licensed Jurassic Park release, and now the Cobble and Fog. Cobble and Fog is, again, public domain characters, but it's all Victorian. It's the streets of London, cobblestones, things like that. Cobble and Fog. So you have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Count Dracula, the Invisible Man, and Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. Play any of the above, mix and match the different sets. You can have King Arthur versus the Invisible Man. You can have Medusa versus Dracula. It's all good. It's all fun. So, without further ado, let's get into what's actually in the box. First thing, rulebook. The rulebook, in Battle There Are No Equals, this refers to each of the characters are going to play completely differently, give you a different experience. Very thematic. Dr. Acula's blood bank advertisement, Dr. Jekyll's couples therapy, an ad for Sherlock Holmes's consulting detective practice. Now, I really love games that have simple, straightforward rules, easy to learn, easy to play, and all the flavor, all the things that make the game stand out are specific to the characters. So you've got a rule book here that's very, very straightforward. Pages set up, what you do on your turn, the different actions you can take, some examples, special rules that only come into play in this set that haven't been in other sets, like the Invisible Man's Fog or the secret passages on one of the game boards. And then there's team play rules. So instead of one-on-one, you can have 2 versus 2. And then kind of an ad for their other sets, as I mentioned, so like Bigfoot versus Medusa they're talking about here. And as any good rule book should have, a reference on the back. The game board is double-sided. So here you have the streets of London. You have the rooftops, you've got alleys. You might notice that some of these spaces have different colors. This is a concept that I first saw years ago in a game called Tannhauser, and it makes line of sight very easy, no arguments. If you're in an orange space, you can see to the other orange spaces, even all the way over to here. Line of sight. Now, rooftop, street level, can't see. But here to here you can. Very straightforward, very simple. The other side of the map is a Victorian mansion. So we can go from here all the way over to here, as if they were adjacent by taking the secret passage. So how's the game played? Well, first you're going to choose one of the characters. Let's start with, let's say, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde are going to come with their deck of cards and a character card. The character card is going to tell you what type of fighter you are, in this case melee, which means you will fight adjacent. What your starting health is, and your health is tracked on a wheel. So we're going to start at 16 health, and as we take damage, you simply dial down. His movement is 2, and then you have special abilities that only apply to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You'll start the game as Dr. Jekyll. At the start of your turn, you may transform into Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde. And while you're Mr. Hyde, after you maneuver, you take 1 damage. This keeps you from being on the offensive all the time and allows you to take advantage of the healing properties or the defenses that Dr. Jekyll offers. On the back of the cards, handy rules reference. On your turn, you take 2 of the 3 possible actions. You can maneuver, which is movement. In this case, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde have a movement of 2. So you would draw a card, move your fighters, and you may discard a card from your hand to boost your move. The boost value would be in this circle here. So instead of just the base of 2, I can discard this card, take the additional 2. This will allow me to move around the board very quickly. You can scheme, which is to play a card with the lightning bolt. Schemes are effects that take place right away. So for instance, when you're Mr. Hyde, you can use this particular scheme, Pure Evil. Place Mr. Hyde in any space in his zone. Zone is the same color. Mr. Hyde deals 2 damage to all adjacent figures. That's pretty powerful when you consider that it's not an attack card. It maneuvers and attacks all at the same time. And that would only be one of your 2 actions. So you can still do an attack. Use this to move in, then do your attack. Now, the attack would be the 3rd option. So schemes are the lightning bolt. Attacks are the red blast. Defenses would be the blue shields. So let's say we're going to do an attack. How this would work is I would choose from my hand an attack card, place it face down. And let's say I am going up against the Invisible Man. The Invisible Man's player could just choose to take the damage and call it a day, or he'll play a defense card face down. Any special effects on the cards will take place when they say, either during combat or after combat. We would then reveal the cards. Attack value of 5, a defense value of 4. The difference being 1, the attack is successful because we're doing some damage at least. Now, during combat, you may in this particular card, you may discard Dr. Jekyll cards from your hand. Add 2 to this card's value for each card discarded. So right now we'd only be doing 1 damage, but let's say I discard 2 Dr. Jekyll cards from my hand. That's going to bring my attack value to 9. 9 versus 4, the Invisible Man's going to take 5 damage. Ouch. Now after combat, the Invisible Man gets his special ability here. Move the Invisible Man up to 1 space. Your opponent then moves a fog token up to 3 spaces. doesn't sound like it does that much until you start to think about what the Invisible Man is capable of doing. The Invisible Man comes with fog counters. These fog counters allow him to move around the board from fog counter to fog counter as if they were adjacent. That means that he is moving around the board pretty much at will. He's coming in, he's hitting you, he's disappearing. Just like he was invisible. Then there's Count Dracula. Count Dracula only has 13 health to begin with, and he's a melee character as well. His ability, however, is to have minions on the table. Now, these brides only have 1 health apiece, but they can move, and they do melee combat. Dracula is all about stalking his opponent, cornering them with the brides, coming in and feasting. And some of his cards, his scheme here, Baptism of Blood, recover 2 health, return defeated sister, if any, to any space in Dracula's zone. So he can sire new minions and heal by drinking the blood of his opponents. Holmes is all about card manipulation and outsmarting and outthinking your opponent. Effects on Holmes and Dr. Watson's cards cannot be canceled. So if it says Holmes or Dr. Watson, their special abilities cannot be negated. If it says any, it's still fair game. But Holmes is going to do things like he's going to play a card that allows him to look at your hand. And then he's going to play a card that makes him guess the value of a card in your hand. And you then discard that card. Hand manipulation, denial, very different play style than, say, Jekyll and Hyde. Very, very interesting matchup to play against each other as well. Now, as I said, this is a hybrid board game / miniatures game, and it does come with some figures that are provided in gray plastic with a wash on them so you can see the details. They look very nice. For those of you that are so inclined, just a couple of minutes work on a base coat and there is Sherlock Holmes. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Count Dracula. And my favorite figure here, the Invisible Man. Why is this my favorite? Because it is so cleverly done. Notice, there is no body in the suit. Now, Cobble and Fog is especially thematic for Halloween coming up. So we do have, the mist and things that go bump in the night. But as we get closer to Halloween, there's another set coming out. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be a popular one. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So you've got Buffy, Spike, Angel, and Willow. And they'll have their own minions. Buffy has Xander, Spike has Drusilla, Willow has Tara. I don't recall who Angel has. I have dibs on Spike. and I can't wait for that set to come out. I'm going to be pre-ordering it as soon as possible. So I hope you've learned a little bit about this game. Good game system. I heartily recommend it. And if you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them on the thread, or you can contact us at Imperial Outpost Games. Thank you for having me in your living room, and have a good evening.